All right, guys, welcome to Synchro Mystic. I'm Wayne McCroy. This is Richard Willett. Together, we're breaking down the stories that seem to hit the mainstream press, and we're finding the Synchro Mystic connections. Too many of the things going on in the world today, and it's always, always, always there. As much as I don't want it to be the case, the occult is ever present in all of the details of all the things happening in the world today. Richard, my friend, how are you? It's been a few weeks since we've spoken. Good to see you again.
I'm good, thank you. I've just seen, and we mentioned it off air, the Donald Trump Christmas video. And the work that I was doing, if you go to my Substack, I'm typing Lilith, you'll see all the work that I was doing about a year and a half ago with Juliet Bryant, who's an Epstein survivor, a actual confirmed survivor with a payout and all of these things. It's not as if she's just making this up. She talks about Epstein and underground bases in New Mexico and being on the island. And they also, 5 or 6 of them use the blue butterfly as a symbol. And I've connected it to Lilith about 2 years ago now. Lilith, again, is the first wife of Adam. And now to watch Donald Trump's Christmas video. I mean, it's not just 1 or 2 little butterflies. They might as well just be jumping out at Trump's wife's face. They are absolutely everywhere. And it's as cult as you like. And even says on some of the ribbons on the Christmas tree something about adopting children. I mean, it's like they know the gig is up. And I'm not saying Trump's involved with this. He may be even trying to blow the whistle on it. How do I know? But, I mean, this is coming out, regardless if it's them coming out and feeling like people are getting there or they're actually paying attention, because there's a lot of people speaking about this stuff now. So, mate, this is getting there. It's knocking on the door.
Oh, absolutely. And the blue butterfly, of course, is a major symbol associated with the Monarch program. This, of course, is the predecessor, well, not the predecessor, the next step in what is known as MK Ultra. And it all has to do with mind control programming, and there's a deeper occult level to it. And as we had discussed off air, this has everything to do with the concept of the Moonchild, as put forward by Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, and all of those people, where? In the high desert out here in the American Southwest, New Mexico. And you just spoke about that. I mean, we have all of these different connections going on to this, and this is a deeper occult agenda for sure. And they put the symbology right out there for you to see. So the blue butterfly is just one aspect of it here. And if you remember back, what was it, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago now, that King Charles had that now famous portrait of himself made there in England. Well, there was red butterflies on that picture, weren't there? So once again, the red and the blue, Richard, as we always talk about, they have to put the polarization in play in order to work both sides of the different concepts. That's the masculine and the feminine all together. And you'll notice the blue butterfly, most of the people that are out there in the regular media circus circles who flaunt this blue butterfly are usually females, because it's a feminine energy, the blue butterfly. Well, King Charles on his painting has the red butterfly, and that's another portion of it that usually doesn't get discussed by anybody. I haven't heard anybody discuss that, but the presence of the blue butterfly, it indicates that there's also likely this concept of the red butterfly. So I would challenge any of the listeners out there, go look for the symbology or the symbolism present of the red butterfly all over the place and see what connections you can make to that. And this is something that I think is important to do. This is part of reading the synchromystic metadata out there. You see, these people use and play on the polarities all the time. So if you see one type of a symbol there, look for its polar opposite out there as well. And that will help to bring you closer to what the synthesis is that they hope to develop by playing the thesis off the antithesis. And this has everything to do with post-humanism, in my view. This is most certainly what's been going on. So, Richard, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what I just said there.
Absolutely. Well, in the book that's coming out, my book in the new year, I talk extensively about the research I've done into Epstein. Unfortunately, this research that I've done has been picked up by someone else, and they've written a book with it and not credited me in it. But that's actually connected to Juliet, so we've had discussions about that, and this is something that happens, and you have to get kind of used to that. But in terms of, I've written it in my book, and obviously she doesn't go into the author of this book with Juliet, the level that we would go into. And I talk about Jack Parsons, his relationship with L. Ron Hubbard, and their connection to Crowley and the Babylon Rising or Babylon Working, sorry, ritual, which they appeared to have done in it's somewhere near New Mexico, not quite in New Mexico, but also at the Manhattan Project. And there's talk of having a what do you call it, a fetus there in a big 12-foot glass. And whether this stuff is true, it might just be the smoke of what is actually true. It might be trying to embellish it, as we've said past, and just make it sound absurd. But they do believe in this moon child, which is Rosemary's baby, and then you have the connection there. But this is all coming back to, like, what we want to talk about today is Daat, Daat, and I've linked that to a data, the anagram of data. So today's Daat, which is hidden knowledge on the Kelipotic tree of life and the Sephirotic, which is the good side is the Sephirotic, the bad side, the evil side is the Kelipotic or Klepoth. Two pronunciations of the same word, spelt different, but it is the same thing. And I'm sure they do that just to confuse people. Though, think of it this way: I've been watching lots of what's it called? Bloody hell, forgot now. Stranger,
Stranger Things?
Stranger
That
Things. I always got Stranger
yeah.
Fiction, Stranger Things lately, and that's clearly a nod and a wink to this upside down, inside out, inverted Kelipotic tree, which is the tree of death. But Dayat, to me, and I want to get your take on this, it's the hidden knowledge. That's what it means. It's the 11th Sephiroth, the hidden knowledge. To me, the hidden knowledge now is the Dayat on you and me, everything we do that they shouldn't really know about because it's none of their bloody business. They will. But also, Dayat seems like a really deeper level, a portal between the hidden and the seen. What were your take on that?
Well, you're absolutely correct. And if you look at the symbolism of Kabbalah, you find the Tree of Life symbol. Okay, this is a symbol that has 22 paths on it, has 10 different spheres upon it, 11 if you count Dayat. That's the hidden path through the middle, the secret knowledge or access point. I should say the secret access point to hidden knowledge. It's the shortcut to get to apotheosis according to their systems. Now, this Tree of Life symbol has a front side and a back side. The front side is called the Sephiroth, the back side is the Qliphoth. The Qliphoth is the bad side, the evil side, the tree of death, the inversion principle. This is the important part because this is what's wielded against us the most. The inversion principle of those things encoded on the front side of the tree of life or the Sephiroth. The backside or the upside down version of the tree of life, the tree of death, has this connection point that connects the good side to the bad side. That is called Daat. It's the same connection that leads supposedly towards this higher knowledge, the middle path. You might hear it referred to as the middle path. And we have Hokmah and Bina. These two represent the pillars of Freemasonry. They represent Joaquin and Boaz, those two twin pillars. Well, in the Masonic system, there's a third pillar that's little known that represents this Dayat. It's the middle path. It's the shortcut to apotheosis. It's the way through gnosis, through the abyss, to the connection to your apotheosis on the other side. This is what they acknowledge. And this is primarily done by accessing Dayat on the backside of the Tree of Life. So it's an inversion principle being applied first and foremost. And this applies very much to all of this. That's why the dark side's invoked most of the time by those people in positions of power. And this actually represents the forbidden fruit of the Bible. That's what the apple is representative of. It's Dayat on the Qliphoth side of the tree of life, the tree of death, the inversion. That's what it represents. And this falls back to some other connection points, too. If you want to draw the lines of intent and connection, we could tie it back to Greek mythology, too. All the archetypes been encoded all over the place. But that's what the apple in the Bible represents. Now, see that the fruit, the forbidden fruit in the Bible has never told you what that means. It was only later that people attached the connotation of the apple to that, and there's a reason for that. And this has to do with the golden apples of Hesperides in the Greek mythology. And what does this represent? I will bring it up for you right now, what this represents, as soon as I can get the link here. Here it is. So, this has to do with what is known in the myth. Here's the origins of the myth. The apples of Hesperides were kept in an orchard known as the Garden of Hesperides. The Garden of Hesperides. Now, look at the connection in the Bible, the Garden of Eden. According to Hesiod's theogony, Gaia presented the apples to Hera as a gift upon her marriage to Zeus. The goddess Hera planted them in a divine garden located at the westernmost point of the world near the Atlas mountain range. Now, Atlas is another hugely important figure in Greek mythology, and this is actually something that is discussed in my new book that will be published later this week. So some interesting tie-overs there as well. But at any rate, the garden was watched over by Hesperides, the daughters of either Nyx, which means night, or the Titan Atlas. And in this version, I would suspect Atlas is probably the more appropriate figure to connect them to. Additionally, the apples were protected by the serpent dragon, Ladon, Ladon, who prevented anyone from stealing them. So the apples of Hesperides were guarded by the dragon, a serpent, and you can see the connections back to the story of the Garden of Eden in the Bible once again. And the most famous story that surrounds this story of the golden apples of Hesperides has to do with Atlas, interestingly enough. The most famous myth associated with the apples of the Hesperides is the 11th labor of Heracles. Now, King Eurystheus ordered Heracles to retrieve the apples as part of his 12 labors. Now, the major version of this story that we'll look at is the Atlas version. In this account, Heracles sought guidance from the Titan Prometheus, whom he freed from his punishment by Zeus. Prometheus advised him to ask Atlas for help. In exchange for fetching the apples, Atlas asked Heracles to temporarily hold up the sky. Atlas then retrieved the apples but refused to take back his burden. Heracles tricked him by pretending to adjust his position, at which point Atlas reassumed his burden, allowing Heracles to escape with the apples. What do these apples represent? That's the other important concept here. So these golden apples of Hesperides, they represent immortality, for one thing. They represent apotheosis, for another. They represent hidden knowledge, or gnosis, in some of the other systems. And this was the forbidden fruit of the Bible. You see, when Adam and Eve ate from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, well, this is what's inferred there. It's not the good from the good side of the tree of life that's problematic. It's the evil side, the clephothic side of the tree. And that is wherein we find this connection to Daat. Daat is the apple. That's why the apple became the symbol most commonly associated with the forbidden fruit of the Garden of Eden. And if you look at the symbol of the apple with a bite taken out of it, where does that lead you to here, Richard?
Steve Jobs.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So now we have all of these connections leading directly into technologies today, or the advent of technocracy as a tool for those same people who are utilizing and leveraging these same archetypes against us. You see, they're using that forbidden fruit against us. And this is exactly why that's the forbidden fruit, because they're seeking to actually violate the person's inner being. They're seeking
Mm.
to violate the holy of holies within man. And I think we've discussed this on some past broadcasts before. The holy of holies, this inviolable portion that is the ontological self, the I am within man. This is what they're seeking to violate through that use of this Daat or data. And I find it intriguing. Sounds like is like, you always find it. Daat data. You were onto something big when you put that connection together, because most certainly this is kind of the technomancy of the use of data being done here, if you want to try to give it a proper magical connotation. Technomancy, that's what I would call it, I think.
It's a lovely word. I like that. Technomancy. So my next question then I suppose would be like in what way why was it forbidden because I know you said it violates the kind of laws of man. There's this immortality. We're not supposed to live in this world forever. We're not supposed to stay here forever. This is supposed to be whatever it's supposed to be, but it's not supposed to be forever. We know that. So by violating that through the Daat, the hidden knowledge, and they're always seeking immortality. My whole book's called I Am Immortal. The whole thing is seeking immortality. They're terrified of death, which is Kronos, which is Saturn, old Father Time, the bearded guy, Santa, whatever you want to call him. They're terrified of that figure catching up with them because, time waits for no man. We all go eventually. So is it that they're going to use this technology to literally keep themselves here, or are they going to use it to kind of create a what the Gnostics would call fake copy or cracked copy of themselves, which is not really them? It's a holographic image of them. They can never really create this. Do you think they actually believe that they can actually live forever in these systems? Which is a ridiculous thing because no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So even if you live 2,000 years, you might die at 2,001 day. You still don't know if forever's going to come because it's out that it's forward. Um, but it's do you think they genuinely believe that they can actually stay here forever, or they're going to synthetically copy their personality and have a bad copy of themselves here? And then what's the point? Because it's not you, is it? It's a remix and a remake, but it's not you.
Well, those are all some very deep and profound questions you have, and the simple answer that I could give for that is yes, on all accounts of that. Some of these people do fervently believe that they can do that, that they can kind of hack reality and live forever here. But here's the problem: it's all a deception. Some of them are aware of it, some of them are not. The thing is, it's these intelligences from the other side, from the spiritual side, that are directing these developments of things, and they're the ones that stand to benefit from them building these systems, from building this eighth sphere, as Rudolf Steiner called it, or the world of shells, as it is referred to by the Hermeticists. So essentially, what this is, and I touch upon a lot of this in my new book, this is about intelligences from the other side, from the spiritual realms, who are in a bad way right now because of where they are. And they want to be able to manifest here in the physical. And they've developed some ways to try to do that through the course of time. And a lot of this ties back to dark magic. And a lot of it actually ties forward now into technology. And they are wielding this technomancy in order to bring this about. And what it is they want to trade places. These spirits from the other side, these discarnate spirits in the underworld, want to trade places with man. And how are they seeking to do that? Well, that would entail a lot more of a conversation here that I don't think we're prepared to get into today, but perhaps on some future broadcast we could discuss the concept of the human double, the doppelganger, the etheric double, the Ahrimanic double, because this has everything to do with what it is they're trying to accomplish. And I'm speaking, of course, of these dark powers, entities, intelligences from the other side of the veil in the abyss that want to manifest here to get out of their prison that they are in and switch places with man. You see, it's much like the story of Heracles and Atlas. Atlas He underwent the search and the quest for the golden apples, or the Daat, on behalf of Heracles, but Heracles had to hold up the sky in the place of Atlas. Now, I hope this makes sense in a philosophical way, and I hope I'm not losing people on this. So there has to be a replacement. There has to be a something, a spirit, a soul, to hold the worlds in place, so there's not utter destruction and chaos. So, in order for these entities to build their eighth sphere that they want to manifest physically in, they need to have somebody else imprisoned in their place. So they want to switch places. And that's what this story of Atlas tells us. Atlas became the world mountain in one of the myths, where in he encountered Perseus, and Perseus showed him the head of the Medusa and turned him into stone, and he became a stone monument of sort, a stone mountain called the Atlas Mountains in the myth, and the Atlas Mountains held the sky in place. This is known as the concept of the world mountain. It is the well, it's another symbol representing the tree of life that holds apart the worlds and holds the worlds in their places. So this is what the symbol of Atlas has become. But in order for that to stand, there has to be inhabitants in each of these spheres that hold the other ones up. And this is essentially what they want to accomplish. They want to switch places so they could manifest physically and have this kind of carnal existence in the eighth sphere, in this physical domain, where they will live forever in this physical domain, and they will seek out their animalistic desires. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. These entities in the underworld, they want to have that carnal experience. They want to further develop the animal man, the lower nature of mankind, and incarnate as that. And in so doing, they're trying to hold back this higher spirit of man, this elevated man, and the sort of next step in our spiritual evolution, if you want to call it that. Man is supposed to ascend into the spiritual realms and become something more. He's supposed to fulfill his entire destiny of humanity. But they are seeking to use this concept of the etheric double to incarnate in a physical housing or vehicle of sorts, devoid of spirit or soul. And they want to completely and entirely separate themselves from the rest of the spiritual creation. This is the eighth sphere. And this is what they're attempting to do. And this is really kind of dark and concerning when it gets down to it. And I know that's probably a bridge too far for most people to consider. But I assure you, if you dig deep enough into occultism and into the political ideologies of this world, you will find this scenario turning up over and over again, because what it's about, really, at the end of the day, is this sort of fake apotheosis that not only these entities from the underworld seek to achieve, but many human beings here now are trying to accomplish. And they think they could do this when, in essence, it won't be the ontological self, the I am within man, that will reside here in this physical eighth sphere environment. It'll just be the shell. The spirit that was housed within it will be replaced by one of these non human entities from the underworld, and that soul will be imprisoned in the abyss in place of that discarnate being. And I know, like I said, it sounds dark and it's probably a bridge too far for most people to consider, but if you start digging deep enough into this stuff, this is what you will find time and time again. So I know that's a lot there to unpack, Richard, and I'd love to hear what you're thinking about it.
Well, a bridge too far is a great way of putting it because it really is a big bridge between two worlds. So if you see it as two sides of the same tree, the dark side and the light side, and it's the gap between the two. It's literally bridging the dark side and the light side. What I find fascinating about what you're talking about there is bringing these entities through into our world, and then there's another twist to it because they want to create our world or sort of in the guise of what their world would be. So if you are familiar with Sleepy Hollow, it goes through the tree, always coming out the tree. Seems to be trees for some reason, probably something to do with the lungs. If you go into Stranger Things, they go in the trees, they go in the weeds, and it grows through. Kabbalah tree of life, it's the roots that turn to the top and the tree goes to the bottom. So we go into their world, they come into our world, the simplest way of putting it. But the twist is they want to, by the looks of it, create this world in a somewhat similar fashion to what their world is with technology, because this world wouldn't be the world that we are accustomed to, the natural world, so to speak, of, plants and flowers. It'll be a synthetic world. So, in a way, they're trying to swap their dark world, come into this world, but also imprint themselves on this world as well. So you would have almost two. Your choice would be between the abyss and the slightly less abyss. It would. You see what I mean? Because as this world isn't going to be that way if they get all their technology involved. So what I find fascinating is that they're kind of defeating the object. It is literally like going to another country and trying to change it from there. It's Sabbateanism. That's exactly what it is. So I find it absolutely fascinating. If you look at the Gotthard Tunnel ceremony, which sometimes gets mixed up with the CERN opening ceremony, they're not the same thing, although they're very close to each other. So they are connected, probably literally connected. But the Gotthard Tunnel, Gotha, and all of these things are connected to the British Royals, and the Gotthard Tunnel clearly showed you exactly what Wayne is talking about. All of these beasts come out of this tunnel, winged beasts, one with a moon head and wings, and it was Baphomet prancing around in tights. It was all sorts of weirdness. Pan was there. So they were showing you what they want to bring through into this world. They were absolutely showing you what they do probably bring into this world or into their own bodies with possession during these ritual ceremonies. It's just a bigger version of that, really. It's just a global version of that. The fascinating thing you say is that they want us to swap with them because, it leaves a void. And I find that is something that people haven't talked about at all. That is really important because these guys that are helping them in this world, ones that have sold their soul already, the ones that have taken the money, the Donald Trumps of the world, the Rothschilds of the world, the black nobility bloodlines that were doing these horrific things for years, the, Count Dracula, Vlad the Impaler connected families, those lot that do exist. It's very real. I'm not saying they are vampires that live forever, but they definitely want to. They're not going to be included. Or they're going to be the priest class at the very most, or they're going to be subjugated to these beings let in. So, in a way, if they're creating this housing AI system, Wayne, for this beast of this energy that comes in, whether that's individual people in their Kelipotic or Klepoth husk, or it's the actual beast system, or both. I'm sure it's all connected. They're not going to be in charge of that. Do they think they're going to be in charge of it? Do they think they can let it in and wrestle it to the ground? Because that's a real, I think, question that they might want to ask themselves.
Well, you're right. That is the question they want to ask themselves. But here's the problem. This is the hubris of many of these people. And you could look at Aleister Crowley as an example of this. They think that they are so knowledgeable and they are so powerful and know so much that they will be able to subdue the demon when it comes through. And they're all mistaken. They cannot get past the dweller on the threshold, which is the demon of the abyss, the veil, the guardian of the veil, known as Karanzan, also known as Apollyon in the Bible, in case you were unaware of that.
And Abaddon as
So
well.
this is
Abaddon as well.
Abaddon,
Yeah.
yes. So essentially, they are deceiving themselves if they think they can overpower this somehow and maintain control, because they're not going to maintain control. They're going to wind up switching places, and they don't even realize it because of their hubris. They've been so clouded by their own egoistic ways of thinking and their own hubristic ways of thinking. They've gotten so enamored of themselves, and they think themselves all powerful, and they think themselves just the greatest thing ever, the greatest of all time, the goat, much
Mm.
like the Gothard Tunnel, the Goat Herd Tunnel
Okay. Yeah.
ceremony that you referred to. It's the same kind of ideology going on all across the board. And it's all about this inversion principle, and it's all about this replacement idea. And this is something that most people won't touch with a 10-foot pole. But I assure you, if you begin digging deep enough into this stuff, you find it over and over and over again. It is the plan. And we can see the culmination of it through the use of some of these technologies. That is certainly what they're intended for. A lot of these things are inspired from the other side and inspire the other side of the veil, the development of these technologies. They see it as their ultimate gateway to get here. You know, the Stargate.
Yeah, no, that is the real issue here is that they think they're building it for their own shits and giggles, best way of putting it. But they're building it because they've been infused with this creative, demonic vision that you see coming out in a lot of TV programs, which has a dual purpose because it warns you against this stuff. Also, it tells you what they're doing, but it also imprints it in your mind to kind of accept it. So again, it's what you do with that information. They could work either way depending on the individual looking at the information and the awareness of the individual. But they're opening in it, and guys, I tell you this: 9/11, Revelations 9/11. Again, I'm not a Christian. I don't read the Bible literally religiously, but it's clearly got things in there to tell you. 9/11 is Revelations 9/11 is when Abaddon, Apollyon, comes out of the bottomless pit. They are telling you, and 9/11, Donald Trump is the 9/11 president, 45th and 47th. 9/11, we all know, was the sacking of the two temples, Jachin and Boaz, with the middle pillar, number seven, being brought down. Seven was brought down. They were all brought down, but if you know what I mean, it was pulled. So the middle temple was pulled to probably symbolize the hidden knowledge, keeping it secret. Um, and then
I
go on.
project something that would actually be the way in which they were invoking the qliphothic side of the tree of life of the Daat principle, the middle path. They were bringing the inverse principle into fruition in the world. That's
Okay.
what that's all about with this destruction of Building 7. And of course, 7 is one of the big numbers inherent in all of this as well, which that's another interesting topic that I could go on for hours, but like I won't because I don't want to lose people. Because like the layers of the onion concept, as we've discussed before, in order to have a foundation of knowledge in one area, first we have to lay the groundwork for another so people could connect the dots in their mind and understand. So that's another symbol altogether, the number 7, how it relates to Saturn and
Mm.
Saturnian ideas. Yeah, but we'll get there eventually. But I
And
didn't want to cut you off,
no,
but
no, no, you're all right.
to I just wanted to steer you in that direction because that is most certainly what the destruction of Building 7 represented. It was the bringing forth of this qliphothic side of the tree of life, the forbidden fruit, the forbidden knowledge.
Well, it's the doorway, as you say. It's the threshold. It was going over the threshold of 9/11, and as you say, when we look into the biblical text, when were the first two alleged temples sacked? 9/11 again. So, they are telling you these things. As seven, it was the Salomon building, the Salomon Brothers building as well. So Solomon's temple. So this goes back thousands of years. People just don't have a clue. And the more I look into it, the more it's so obvious. And they're just everywhere. So where do you think, do you think, how do you see this playing out, Wayne? Because oh, they've got 2030. I don't think that's really as big as most people think it is, in my opinion. But I think you're looking at another couple of 100 years with these lunatics. But what do they genuinely think this place is going to be like? Like the computer's going to be talking to them, the AI quantum computer is going to be speaking to them as a entity, and they're going to control it from the temple, and obviously it's going to go into the Skynet, Starlink, and into your physical bodies. Do they think they're going to, and then them physical bodies are going to house like a husk any future born children? Or do they think they're going to house and husk this entity in every single person and they're going to control it from the beast system? It's fascinating because there's going to be a issue here with these lunatics and this energy because they don't mesh because they both want to control it. I mean, it's not going to get that far, but I'm trying to get into the mind of what they are because there is a point where they're gonna have to come to blows because they both want to be in charge.
Absolutely. And this is the whole thing because at the end of the day, and I actually wrote about this in my very first book, The Alchemical Tech Revolution. When it comes down to it, at the end of it all, there's only going to be one intelligence in charge of all of it. and I assure you he will name himself Lucifer.
Mm. Yep, Lucifer, the light bearer. And the interesting that Lucifer, when he falls, he becomes Satan. So Satan, when he's in this realm, Lucifer before.
Yes, absolutely. I mean that's the thing. So there's a lot of different names for this being, and there's a lot of different connotations. And some would argue that Lucifer and Satan are not the same being, but most assuredly, it's two aspects of the same thing. And I would go back to the works of Rudolf Steiner to try to explain this further, because he describes this figure that I call the Antichrist. He describes it as a combination of three different entities. It's an unholy trinity of sorts. It's an inversion of the Holy Trinity of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And this is what Steiner names as Lucifer, Ahriman, and Sorath. So these are different aspects of the same being. So Lucifer is a connotation towards the more spiritual side of things, the manipulation of the spiritual side, and the inversion of the spiritual side. Whereas Ahriman is the inversion and the usage of the physical side to get things done. And Sorath is actually known as the demon of the sun, Sun, the demon of the sun. And this has to do with the invocation of the principles of light and manifestation to bring these spiritual and physical ideas into one type of unity. And how they intend to do that is the inversion of what it is in the natural world. In the natural world, in God's creation, in the Creator's creation, we are supposed to step up into other spiritual realms. Whereas the plan of this Lucifer Ahriman Sorath figure, this Antichrist figure, is the building of a spin off world of sorts of the physical plane here called the eighth sphere, where they could be, or he could be, because it's three aspects of the same being in my viewpoint. He can be the absolute God and ruler of that place and have total control and have immortality in physical, dense chemical region physicality, if you want to go to the Rosicrucian system for describing this, and live forever and be all powerful and be able to experience all things through these physical vehicles that we inhabit now, but it'll be devoid of the souls of men. It'll just be a cheap knockoff. It'll just be the information, the data that's collected about the
Mm.
person, devoid of the spirit or the ontological self or the I am within man, which is kind of like a simulation.
Well, that's
Where
it,
if we
Dwayne. I just jump in there, but people, as soon as you speak about that, people are going to go, "Oh, it's the Gnostics." And so, do you think that, from your take on it, that the Gnostics were talking about, possibly talking about something that may happen, where many people have taken it as something that has happened? Because it's really interesting what you're saying. It's like, you know exactly what I just said. The Gnostics believe that that's what we live in now, allegedly, anyway, because we only really have so much about them. They killed the rest, and the Catholic Church didn't like them very much. And but then you're talking about basically what the Gnostics say we live in now being built after this. So could it be a case that we were warned that this is coming, but some people have taken it as that it's already been? There's a real interesting topic there.
And I think that's actually the direction I would lean with this, Richard. I think that basically you had some good portions within the teachings of the Gnostics, just like all these other different secret society groups and occult fraternities. There's a good portion of the people, a good side, that are actually all about serving other people, like the service of others, and have an actual spiritual type of, what's the term I'm looking for? Have some type of a spiritual character that they view as being more important and wanting to steer people in the right direction. So they're actually out for the good, the benefit, the advancement of man into the full development of our full potential as human beings. And then you have the dark side of that. The problem is the ones on the good side are not as numerous or as organized as those on the dark side. And that's wherein we've had our problems. So you've had people who have purposely misconstrued things to fulfill their own agendas. out of their own hubristic ways of thinking and out of the maintenance of power and the acquisition of power and authority over others. So they've taken a lot of these ideas, they've inverted them, telling you this is what has already happened. When it hasn't happened yet, that's what they're trying to build. That is their ultimate end goal. That's the approach I take to this, and that's what I think has gone on. They've taken the good bits of information and they've weaponized them against people to try to convince them that this is how it is. Because think about that. If we do live in a simulation type environment like this, and there are these dark forces in charge, and you have these archonic energies at play, and you have this evil god, as they like to try to frame the reference here, in charge of things, then we're in a hopeless position if that's the case. Because if you exist solely in a simulation, how do you get out of that? Think about that. You can't. And this is why they've come forward with this ideology of prison planet. And you'll notice Alex Jones used to name one of his platforms Prison Planet. That's all by design too. So you have this ideology. It's a very Gnostic way of thinking, but it's not here yet. And that's what we need to get across to people. This is good news. We don't have to go there. And each of us has a choice, an individual choice in that matter, whether we want to participate with that or not. And that's what they don't want you to know or understand. They don't want you to know that you have free will, you have a choice in the matter. And it's an individual choice that you must come to the crossroads of and make a decision. They don't want you to know that. They want you to just blindly accept what they're handing you. And they're handing you, by and large, this whole simulation theory ideology because they want you to give up. They want you to give in to that feeling of hopelessness so that they can more easily switch places with you. And that's where we're at, in my view, anyway. So I know that's a lot, Richard. And like I said, it's a bridge too far for most people to consider. But these ideas are worth consideration. Even if you think it's absolute nonsense, the important part is there's people in positions of power in this world that very much believe in these concepts, and the things they do to act upon their beliefs will affect all of us. So it's important that you know it and you understand it, whether or not you agree with the truth of it or not. So that's the bottom line with all of it. So I know that's a lot, and I'd love to hear more of your thoughts.
I think it's a really important argument to put across from the Gnostic stuff. I do, and I'm surrounded by that kind of thought a lot. And I don't feel like I'm trapped in anything. And I think it's the feeling of if you're trapped, you feel trapped. I kind of make light of it, and I've said in another podcast that if you put me in prison with 500 of my mates, I'll be on holiday. It's not a prison, is it? It I think it really comes to where how you feel. Like wherever I go, I'll always take the weather with me. If I'm a grumpy sod here, I'll be a grumpy sod there. Like it. So I think it's a deeper thing than that, and you have more responsibility in the mindset of whether you feel that way. Now I don't see this place as a trap at all. I never have done, and it's not something I kind of buy into. But I know many people do, and I respect people that do. I believe that that's definitely. But the funny thing is, those people that do still believe that they're going to create a trap within a trap. So we're on the same side there. But this is where the whole thing comes. So I go, well, whether it is or whether it isn't or whether it might be, I'm just going to be a decent person and not a dick in any of the traps. And then they haven't got me because I get to decide how I behave and what effect I have on my surroundings, whatever surroundings you give me. So that's the only thing I can control, and that to me is like ultimate power. It's like, well, you just put me in here and I'll still behave the same. I'll still be the same person. That's sovereign. It doesn't matter what situation you put me in. I'll still be a decent person to people around me because that's who I am and who I want to be. And that is my stubbornness going, I'm not going to become a product of my environment, whatever environment you put me in. So I don't really care if it is or not because I am whoever I am, whatever situation I am in, if that makes sense. So I think that's a really strong way of looking at it. It's like I've been in some great positions where I should have been really happy and I've been miserable, and I've been in some positions where I should have been miserable and I find it hilarious. I don't really understand it, but I kind of feel like there's definitely they are creating a trap for the soul. Whether it's been done or not already, I would argue, and I think it's a really important counter argument to the Gnostic stuff that gets a lot of airway right now. So I think it's a great point, and it's an important point that needs to be brought up. People need to decide for themselves from all of the options. It's up to them to decide what this place is.
And you just laid out a valuable roadmap for people. That's the roadmap to true sovereignty. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Mm.
As simple as that. Don't let your environment be the condition of your joy and your energy and your love. And that's as hokey and new agey as it sounds. Love is the answer. Service to others. That's what we should do, and that is what we should be. And we should have joy in doing that. And the more you do that, the more joy it brings to you. And that's the important connotation and takeaway. That is the answer to true sovereignty. That is how you separate yourself from this beast system. And if more people do that, the better off we'll be. And certainly we have those people that are just interested in going along to get along. And that's not the way forward, guys. Going along to get along. That time has passed. Society and culture is changing. The world is changing. And things are going to happen very rapidly here. And now's the time to take the stand and be different rather than conforming to your environment. So stand in your sovereign spirit. And that's an important message here. And I have an immense amount of hope because we're making breakthroughs every week here, Richard, as we explore and talk about these topics that nobody, say, even 5 years ago would be on air talking about openly like this. These things, people are more receptive to these ideas now than they were before. Whereas in the past, if we talked about this stuff, we'd be labeled tinfoil hatters and all of that and dangerous disinformation. And we've heard it all, haven't we? And like that's the whole thing. They try to cordon us off into this own little private echo chamber, but our voices are being heard. And because these topics themselves are important, and there's no stopping an idea that's time has come. And this is an idea that's time has come.
Mm.
Because certainly we're seeing what these dark powers who really run things in this world are trying to build, and we don't want any part of that. And there's a lot of good people out there that don't want any part of that. And I have an immense amount of hope for the future because people are waking up left and right in droves, understanding what's been done and how they've been lied to and manipulated for all of their lives. And they're really reassessing what they think they believe. And that's what we all need to do. We need to look at it from an objective perspective and not lose our humanity in the process. And that's what a lot of what's been proffered to us by the Gnostics and others is designed to do. It's designed to strip you of your spirit, your soul, your humanity. It's designed to make you think that you are just a cog in the wheel, that you're trapped in this lifeless simulation when nothing could be further from the truth. We are full of life. We are imbued with the spirit of God, the divine spark of God. And that is what our true nature is and what our true place is as human beings. That is our what's the word I'm looking for? That's our place. That's our station here in this reality. If you go back and look in the Bible, God gave us dominion over all the earth. He put us in charge, and that's something that's intrinsically different about human beings than any other created being throughout all of creation. We have free will, and we are created in the image of God. We are different from the other created beings or powers or entities, intelligences, however you want to view these things, these other spiritual entities. We are different in that regard, and that is why they need us to build the systems that they need to be able to incarnate in physicality here. But it'll always be a cheap knockoff because they can't change who or what they are, and they will always default to their true spiritual nature. And that is the important hope that we have here. We as human beings are different. We have will and we have imagination. Those two things combined make us lowercase c creators. And that is what makes man different from the other beings. So I know that's a long diatribe. And like I said, a lot of this conversation is probably a bridge too far for most of your normies out there. So I'm hoping we could break through to people
I
with a
think
lot
it's,
of these.
I think it's really, it is. She said there's hidden data, hidden Daat, and we'll maybe bring it here to end it. Is there has to be a light side of this hidden knowledge as well as the dark side of this hidden knowledge that they're using and weaponizing against us. And this is the hidden knowledge, in my opinion, or my view, my feeling, my gut feeling of the light side of that knowledge is that you do take the weather with you. You have to be the change you want to be in the world. Just because you're put in a situation doesn't mean you have to act or change the person you are. That's sovereign. And I think that's the hidden data, the hidden Dayat, the lighter side of things. And I think people that are bringing this about, most of them unconsciously, are very unhappy, very, very disconnected, and very discontent because they're looking around this world and going, why isn't it doing something for me? Most people, we're the lucky ones. We've got heating on right now and the roof over our heads. And I even have like I look at I think I mentioned this in the podcast that we did with the Forbidden Knowledge news guys. Is that if so you hear the story of Yalda Bayoth and he was born and then his mum rejected him. Well, if you couldn't have, why? Of course he's gonna be pissed off. Like, but what? No, I never hear anyone say that and go, poor sod. They skip over that bit. They skip over the bit where mum had a child out of wedlock, just so to speak, and then she abandoned him because everyone was telling them that he was a monster. Well, that's terrible parenting. They miss over that bit. No wonder the kid was messed up. So do you know what I mean? If you could go sit down with him going, yeah, your mum abandoned you. That was the wrong thing to do. Maybe you wouldn't want to go and do all these bad things. Do you know? I know it's only a story, but I just can't understand how you miss over the essential bits of like, you're still human. You can still have empathy with people. I have empathy with Elon Musk. He's clearly been abused all his life and messed around. I have empathy with Donald Trump. Clearly, his dad was a rotter and his dad was a rotter. Like, this doesn't happen overnight. I have empathy with everyone in this goddamn madness because something went wrong. And we lost that empathy. And and that's where it's getting worse. And that's why I think there is an energy from elsewhere. But then you have to, you don't have to, you do what you like. But then you feel kind of sorry for these sods. Like when we talk about these stuck in this underworld and these horrible demons stuck in here who want to come through here. I don't know about you, but I kind of feel sorry for them. Like, how did you get there? Like, what were you before? Because I don't believe things are intrinsically evil. And I just think, what happened? What happened? And how can we undo it? And I think, I don't know, it just seems like we've got to have another way of thinking about these things, or we're not going to undo it. We're just going to pile more crap on top of crap. So it just, I don't know, I find it mad that we even look at these demons come through, and I'll be like, fucking hell, no wonder you're angry. You're 6'8" and you've got fangs, and you're not particularly attractive. Like, I don't understand. If it's a living thing, then it's a living thing, even if it's a living dead thing. I, I, I just find it really funny. I find this whole bloody thing that we're in mad, and maybe that's my way of coping.
It is kind of a madhouse when you really look at all of that from that perspective. But certainly, and this is what the one of the core tenets of Christianity is or should be as expressed by Christians. And one of the biggest problems with Christianity is actually Christians. I could say that being a Christian, I know that because we don't always hit the mark with things. And we do need to have this empathy for others and care for others and not hate others. You see, even if it is some non human essence or something like that, to have utter hate and contempt for that, it shows a lack of empathy on our part. And we are mandated to love one another, even the unlovely. And how it's been expressed to me best in Christianity is we dislike the sin, but not the sinner.
Yeah,
And that's where the problem
hate the
is
game,
because
don't
we
help the
all,
player. Yeah, hate the
right,
game, don't
we've
hate the
all
player.
sinned.
Yeah.
We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's what it tells us. So it's like you can't have that hatred or dislike for the personality itself. It's just maybe the sin that's bothersome. And that's what we need to get past. And most people can't overlook that. And that's wherein you get all of these ideologies of hatred and fear mongering and war and the demonizing of one people group against another, the dehumanization process. That's what that ultimately leads to, dehumanization. And of course, we need to have that empathy because that is love and that is the divine spirit. That is the divine spark within us. And that will overcome all. But it is kind of a madhouse when you look at all of it, as you alluded to. If you take a step back and look at it, I think it's really beyond our human capacity to understand the machinations of all of it. But it's there for a reason. And we have this type of thing going on for a reason, and it plays off the polarities, the opposites, the unification of opposites, as the secret schools always talk about. So it's the black and the white, or more
Mm.
accurately, as I describe in my new book, the black cube and the white cube. These are the building blocks of our reality. And because of that, we have synthesis, especially here in the physical world. So it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to consider. It's a lot to think about. And most people don't want to think deeply or clearly about these things because we've been so programmed into just being distracted by things of no real importance. You know, we get up in the morning, we go to work, we do the things we have to do to pay the bills and keep the roof over our head. And in our downtime, when we're too tired to really pursue any of these ways of thinking, we turn on the TV and tune out, and instead we seek entertainment. And what's the definition of entertainment? To go in and grab hold of the mind. And that's essentially what's been done to us. A lot of us are in this conditioned, programmed state all the time and are completely unaware of it. Well, we're here to break the mind control programming, aren't we, Richard?
We are, and that's I think it's a breath of fresh air. Always makes me feel better when we've had these chats, and I think the people who listen to it think this. Well, started to think the same because it's honest and it's honest chats, and they make a huge difference, whatever flavor they may come in. But this has been great. We started off talking about portholes and wormholes and Daat and data, and came out the other end with some light data, Daat, with you. So it's lovely where these conversations go. Where people can find you and your new book. What's it's called, and where can people get it, mate?
All right. People could find me, first of all, at my website, www.alchemicaltechrevolution.com. All of my work is centralized there. The new book will be out very soon. By the end of the week, it should be published and released and available for purchase. That is available either on Amazon or anywhere else you buy books. You'll be able to find it. The title of the book is called The Enoch Polarity and the End of Time. And this is a very interesting work that's been kind of long in the making here. I've been working on it for over a year now, and it kind of all hit me all at once the end of last year. And then for some reason or another, I wound up procrastinating and I got stuck. I got writer's block at a certain point. But there's a reason for that, and there's always a reason for these things. And through the the good Lord's provision, other things fell into my lap that made the picture more clear for me, and that's why it's been delayed in its writing. I've been working on it a long time, but other things have come to my attention that kind of reify the whole position that is put forward in the book. So looking forward to having that out. And Richard, I know you're working on a book, hoping to have it out early next year, correct?
Yeah, my first book, I Am Immortal, comes out. It's an expansion on the film that's on iconic.com now, and it's very much about the this whole agenda for this transhumanist agenda and why they're terrified of death. That's why they want to become immortal. So that'll be out in the new year. So looking forward to that, and I'll let you know when that's out. But you can find my stuff on iconic.com, all my video work, and Substack. You can find just put Richard Willett in, or Some May Conspire. You can find me on there. This is absolutely fantastic. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time as well with some more Synchro Mystic metadata.